I'm Leah Lawrence.
And I'm her husband, Mitch Lawrence.
And you are listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast, where I regale my husband with Southern stories of the macabre, creepy, and strange.
And I drink.
So what are you drinking tonight, Mitchell?
Our beer tonight, Leah, is not a beer at all.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is Narwater Blueberry Raspberry. Brewed and canned by Monday Night Brewing in Atlanta, Georgia. 4.7% alcohol by volume. Let's read the online description. You ready?
Yeah.
Bold, vibrant, a vocal proponent of self-care. Brewed the hard way with real blueberries and raspberries. That's it. And I guess I didn't say already that when I said this isn't a beer, it's a seltzer. I apologize. But I didn't say that. But yeah, it's a hard seltzer. We got a few of these from Monday night, these Narwaters, and they will be coming up sporadically over the next few weeks. So there's this one that Leah can't drink because there are real blueberries in this. It's an excellent seltzer. It's tart in all the right places, sweet in all the others. Leah? Yeah, I'm giving you a weird look while I'm saying this.
I don't like the way... You've got a predatory look on your face, and I'm not okay with it.
Well, this one I fully recommend. I like it a lot. 9 out of 10 overall. It's good, and there is, it's a seltzer, so there's not a whole bunch of flavor, but what there is, it's really, really good. So I recommend it. I don't recommend ever getting drunk on seltzers. I've done that, and it's taken me this long to be able to get back to them. Because about 3 months ago, I got real fucked up on some seltzers, and just haven't had the taste for it in a while.
Also, can I just say, apropos of just the seltzer topic and not specifically Southern seltzers, Truly Lemonade, don't waste your fucking money.
So bad.
It tastes like actual chemical garbage. Because they've sweetened it to make it taste like a lemonade, but they've sweetened it with aspartame, I think, and it tastes like ass.
Well,
don't purchase that if you don't just love the flavor of aspartame, because it is not good.
So far, Narwater's real good. The blueberry raspberry is. So try those if you can. And Monday Night Brewing has always made good stuff. We've had a few of their beers on before.
Their Dr. Robot's one of my all-time favorite sours.
Yeah, they do some really, really good stuff. So I recommend trying these if you're a seltzer fan. Our shot in the dark for the night, Banana Pudding Appalachian Sippin Cream. Produced and bottled by Sugarlands Distilling Company, LLC in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. 20% alcohol by volume. Let's read the bottle. Our banana pudding cream liqueur honors a classic southern dessert with flavors of banana, vanilla wafers, whipped cream, and sweet pudding. End quote. Oh, and I'm burping in the middle of that. I apologize. Well, look, it doesn't get any better than this. When we were going up to Gatlinburg, also known as COVID Central, a month ago, Leah looked up if they had anything new at Sugarland. She saw this, and I was like, oh, 100% we're getting that. And not a mistake. Put this in your cereal, in coffee. You can put it in your pancake mix. I don't care. It works everywhere. Just make sure that you try it. It's unbelievable how good this is.
And when we actually went to the distillery, they sold out. We had gone there the first day and purchased a couple bottles of it, and it was completely sold out the next day that we were there. Yep. So
it was newish.
If you can find it, it was new then, but if you can find it, get it, because it is actually really good and it goes pretty quick. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just drinking it on ice because I don't want to mix it with anything. 10 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 overall. Of course, Leah, what's better than banana pudding?
Not very much.
Nothing.
If you don't like bananas, obviously you're not going to like that, but it is a subtle banana, Laffy Taffy, and vanilla kind of situation, and I love it.
So amazing.
It's really well done. I was worried that it was going to be too banana heavy, but it's very well balanced. And if you like banana pudding, you should probably enjoy this. And I also very much enjoy it as a coffee creamer if you're into that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So good. And banana heavy was my nickname in high school. So, with that being said,
I'd call you banana heavy.
Please don't ever call me banana
Kind of
heavy.
like the bananas in pajamas, but you're their big, mildly drunk uncle.
I'm the bouncer.
Heavy banana.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the alcohols, Leah. You may give us whatever is next whenever you feel the need to.
All right, well, we're about to go into the Sassy Southern Saying, but first, I just wanted to thank everybody that sent us dog pictures, just because, look, I wasn't expecting anyone to actually do it, but a few of you did, and I appreciate it. And there were a couple of baby pics in there, too, and I'm not the biggest fan of babies, but you know what? Yours is adorable, so thank you very much for that. Yeah, just overall very pleasantly surprised by our inbox this week, and I very much enjoyed it. So
people
thank
are nice
you.
people.
Thank you very much. So anyway, we're going to go into Sassy Southern Superstitions for this week, because we are going to be talking about some Southern New Year's superstitions, so you can be good and prepared to make 2021 suck less than 2020 did.
Well, we'll see. I don't know.
I mean, fingers crossed. Who knows?
So far, it's not looking good.
If you're Southern, you probably already know all this shit. Just you can skip ahead a few minutes. But if you're not, and you're interested in our particular traditions and maybe sort of the folkloric, origins of those particular traditions, keep listening, because I'm about to tell you some stuff.
Tell you some
Tell
stuff.
you some stuff. I'm struggling with words, y'all. My grandmother's convinced that it's like a lingering COVID symptom, but I'm pretty sure I'm just like old now. I don't know. Anyway. So, our very first tradition for New Year's Eve / New Year's Day is black-eyed peas. So, everybody knows that on New Year's Day, you need to eat at least a spoonful of black-eyed peas. Now, some people say you need to eat exactly 365 black-eyed peas.
Ugh.
Like, specifically count them, no more, no less, or you're going to fuck yourself up. Look. I don't have time to subscribe to that particular superstition. But for everybody else, just a spoonful of black-eyed peas is...
Helps the medicine go down. The medicine go down.
Not quite.
The medicine go
Can you
down.
stop? No. So a spoonful of black-eyed peas on New Year's
the
Day.
medicine go down.
Mitchell.
In the most delightful way.
Are you done?
Yes, you may
Thanks.
continue.
So if you keep going, I swear I'm going to come over there. So a spoonful of black-eyed peas is just supposed to bring you wealth and prosperity in the new year. So some people believe that the tradition dates back to the Civil War. And the story behind that is when Sherman was making his march to the sea, he raided a Confederate supply camp for food, but he left the black-eyed peas and the salted pork because he thought that they were food for animals. And the Confederate soldiers thought they were really lucky and fortunate that they had left something to eat, so that became their tradition. But most people believe that that's a bunch of bullshit, and it actually is an older, like, Jewish tradition. Something about Rosh Hashanah, which I really don't know much about Rosh Hashanah, so maybe, but from my very limited, research, that's what most historians actually believe it comes from. But anyway, so if you want to have good money situations in 2021, maybe consider having some black-eyed peas.
Yeah.
And with your black-eyed peas, you should also be consuming some collard greens.
Yes.
So collard greens are, the green portions of the collard plant.
But
Generally, you snip them off and you put ham hocks and bacon and butter and any other kind of greasy drippings that you can, and you wilt it together, and it makes it absolutely and if you eat that on New Year's Day, you're supposed to have lots and lots of cash, in the new year. And most people, collard greens and black-eyed peas are must-dos for, New Year's Day.
yeah, but you won't eat either of them.
No,
so.
I won't. I actually really like black-eyed peas, but I do not like collard greens. Sorry, I'm more of a spinach girl myself, but... I'll eat them if they're, done up with a bunch of bacon and butter, but they're not my favorite. And then a lot of people also serve that with cornbread because, what else are you going to eat that with? But
Oh, yeah.
and then another particular superstition for New Year's in the South is the first person that enters your home after midnight on New Year's Eve, so the first person that enters on New Year's Day tells about the kind of luck that you're gonna have. Preferably you want a tall, dark, handsome man bringing a gift to be the first person. So I don't know who's got those friends that's just like scheduling a tall, dark, handsome man to come in their door. I don't know. But apparently that's the preference. But, you know, who comes in your door first is supposed to give you kind of a feel as to what the rest of the year is going to bring. And some people also believe that you're not supposed to leave your house on New Year's Day because it represents people leaving life in general. So people dying or losing things or people moving away. So some people just stay at home on New Year's Day. And I think that's what me and Mitchell are going to be doing.
Yeah. So. I just want to eat some black-eyed peas and collard greens. And we always had like fried chicken or something with it too. But you won't eat cornbread or collard greens. But
I like peas.
Yeah, you'll eat.
I'm
peas
more of a
and chicken.
purple hulled pea girl myself, but I mean I can go black-eyed peas for New Year's. But
wait, we can get some of those and then just like put a little
just
Sharpie
draw
dot on them.
Sharpie dots on it. I don't. I don't want to fuck with 2021. Let's just go traditional on this one. But anyway, so if anybody wants to celebrate like a Southerner, always remember your black-eyed peas and your collard greens, your cornbread if you care to make it, and, you know, maybe don't leave your house on New Year's Day because that is lucky and, you know, you shouldn't be leaving your house anyway. So
I was going to say that's how you get COVID. It was ahead of its time.
Yeah. So this year, do as the old Southern folk do and don't leave your house on New Year's.
Yeah. I agree with you, Leah.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun.
Excellent.
You made me very hungry. I'm serious. I'm very hungry now.
I'm sorry.
I really want some collard greens and black-eyed peas. Oh, man. And some sweet cornbread. So people tell me that I'm wrong all the time, and I don't care. I love sweet cornbread.
That's called Yankee cornbread.
I don't care.
Because it does have a higher sugar content, and it's a mixture of corn flour and regular flour when you make it. My brother really likes it too, but I think all cornbread's gross, so I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't like cornmeal anything, but thanks for playing. Try again. I'm a weird texture person. Anyway, would you like to go on to our very first story of the evening?
I would.
All
whenever
right.
You're ready.
Okay, well, we're going to go to Mississippi for our very first story, and we are going to be talking about the Ghost Bride of Annandale.
Yay, I love Ghost Brides.
Ghost Brides.
Yay.
Okay, so there is a chapel in Mississippi that is sort of features prominently in this particular story. It's in Mansdale, Mississippi, and it's called the Chapel of the Cross. It was built by a woman named Mrs. Johnstone right after her husband died. He was a wealthy plantation owner, had a shit ton of money. Anyway, he died, and she was sad. So she built this church called the Chapel of the Cross there in Mississippi. It was dedicated in 1852. It's on the, National Historic Register of Historic Places, But that particular cemetery is haunted by her daughter. And this is the story of how her daughter came to be haunting that cemetery.
Okay.
All right. So Helen Johnstone was Mrs. Johnstone's daughter, and she was 16 years old when she met this tall, dark, handsome stranger.
Oh, did she have black-eyed peas?
No, she didn't. Sorry. Well, she might have. I don't know. But she met this man named Henry Gray Vick. Now, Vick was of the Vicksburg Vicks. As of, his family, that's who it was named after.
Okay.
So he was well-to-do, had lots of planter kind of folk in his family, and they had lots and lots of money, and he was just, of the genteel class at the time. And so he shows up. They're all at Helen's sister's house for Christmas in 1855. For the most part, it was, he was friends of the family, but they didn't really know each other. But, they ended up being in the same Christmas party at her sister's house in 1855. And unfortunately, Vic's carriage had a problem. It threw a wheel or tossed a horse. I don't know how carriages fuck up.
Wait a second. It threw a wheel or tossed a horse.
I don't know. I don't
It had a blowout.
Yeah, something happened to the carriage, and he could not immediately leave back to his own lodgings. So instead, Helen's sister was like, "Hey, bro, you can stay here. We've got a big-ass house. There's plenty of guest rooms. Just chill here for a little while." And he was like, "Okay, no problem." And while he was chilling there, he got to know Helen pretty well.
Oh, hello.
And Helen was very taken with Mr. Henry Vick. And so, they started courting. So Helen's mom, who had recently been widowed, was in the middle of building this big old plantation house that her husband had started but didn't really finish because he died. And the house is called Annandale. And she was building this big old fucking house. And, she liked Mr. Henry Vick because he was wealthy. And, if a wealthy dude's trying to marry your wealthy daughter, it only seems fair to let him do it, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. But
That's nice.
She was upset because Helen was 16 and that was just too young. She didn't want her marrying before she turned 20 just because she didn't think it was a good idea for her to start having kids, which people pretty much would immediately, until she was a little bit older. So they had a pretty long engagement because her mom really wanted her to wait till she was about 19 or 20 years old to get married. So they waited and they set a date of May the 21st of 1859 to have this wedding. And they were going to get married at that chapel, the Chapel of the Cross that was dedicated to her daddy. And it was going to be just this beautiful wedding. Well, shot in the dark.
Okay. All right. I'm so ready.
Okay. So it's a week before the wedding. It's been 4 years. They've been courting since she was 16 years old. She is 20 years old now, ready to get married. So, shot in the dark.
Okay.
A week before his wedding, Mr. Henry Vick made a trip to purchase his wedding suit. In which city did he do his shopping?
Oh, okay.
Was it A, Biloxi, Mississippi?
Biloxi?
Biloxi. Biloxi.
There you go.
We always said Biloxi, but I don't know if that's the right way to say it or not. Anyway, Biloxi,
It's definitely Biloxi.
New Orleans, or Mobile.
I believe that's going to be Mobile.
You are incorrect, good sir. He went to New Orleans, Louisiana.
Well, all right. Would you like a shot? I poured 2 just in case.
Sure, might as well.
Mm-hmm.
That shit's
Reach. God damn it, Leah.
What?
That's the second time I have to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say the D word.
Jesus Christ. All right. Oh, there you go. And hold on one second. Let me notate this. All right. Leah took it already. So.
Sorry, it was D word.
It is most definitely D word. We were going to do it together, but.
Every man should have their own banana pudding shot in their own, time.
Okay.
And I took
I'm
it
going.
immediately, so.
Oh, man, that's so good.
Yeah, it's excellent. Anyway.
Oh.
So he, in fact, went to New Orleans, Louisiana, to pick up his garments because, they had a bunch of shit there. So he wanted the finest suit, and they had the finest tailors, so he went there.
Spoiler alert, there's still a lot of shit there.
There is a lot of shit there. Anyway, so he left his home in Vicksburg, Mississippi a week before the wedding, and he took a quick little boat trip to New Orleans so he could pick that suit out for his wedding. He was also going to get a couple of gifts for the house that he and his soon-to-be bride were going to live in after the wedding was over. So he was getting her some little gifty gifts and, just having a nice little time there in New Orleans. Well, after he had picked out his suit and paid for the little trinkets that he was going to bring home, he went to the bar for a drink because why not? Unfortunately, when he got there, he ran into a man named James Stith. Now, he and James Stith used to be real good buddies.
Oh.
But for whatever reason, about a year beforehand, excuse me.
You got burps?
I did.
Gross.
Now, about a year before this whole situation happened, they had gotten into a bit of a fight, a quarrel.
Oh, that's sad.
They were pissed off at each other. And Henry Vick was like, oh, fuck it. I don't even need this guy in my life anymore. And he just sort of let it go and walked away and moved on with his life.
He ran into him in New Orleans?
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, in the bar in New Orleans.
Weird.
Unfortunately, Mr. Stith did not have that same let's move on with our lives kind of feeling. And so instead of just like leaving the dude alone, he sees him come into this bar and he slams his glass down and he says, I'm not going to drink in the same room as that son of a bitch Henry Vick over there. And he was just so pissed off that he said Henry Vick is no gentleman. And that is a yo mama is, that kind of situation.
Yo mama is no gentleman.
Like it is rough at that time period. You don't talk shit about people's gentlemanly status. So these motherfuckers got into a fist fight. They are pissed at each other. One of them goes for the throat. One of them punches him in the face. Ugh. Like it's rough. It's a brawl. And eventually they get pulled away from each other. But Henry Vick is like, look, dude, duel tomorrow. Let's get this shit going. I'm going to beat the shit out of you and I'm going to bullet you in the face, that kind of thing. And so the other guy, Mr. Stith, was like, you're on, bitch. We're going to do this. So they both had time to cool off a little bit. And Henry Vick was like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have fucking done that because I'm about to get married and, having a gun pointed at my face is a really bad idea. And also, I promised Helen that I would never participate in a duel because it's stupid. So he attempted to apologize to Mr. Stith and say, hey, I was wrong. I apologize. I didn't mean to hit you in the face. Let's not duel. But Mr. Stith was like, hell no, you're the one who challenged me to the duel and we're going to fucking do this or you're not a gentleman, you asshole.
I sobered up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, they decided, shit, okay, I guess we've got to go through with this. So they decided they had seconds. So if anybody's seen Hamilton, you'll have remembered the song of how all of that shit works. But they had, buddies that were the seconds to go talk to each other to negotiate the terms of the duel. So instead of doing it in New Orleans, they decided to duel outside of Mobile for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. They just did. I guess the police were more chill about it there. I don't know. But they went to, they met on the day in Mobile or just outside of Mobile. And the police had gotten word of it as well, and they were coming to stop it, but that didn't work out very well. Yeah. But anyway, so they get to the dueling ground, and Vic has decided that he's going to try to pull a Hamilton and pull his shot away and intentionally not
That's
hit
heroic.
This guy.
Yeah.
But it turns out, just like Alexander Hamilton, that did not work out well for him. Yeah. Because Mr. Stith
he shouldn't have thrown away his shot.
Yeah, Mr. Stith did not throw away his shot and shot a single bullet straight in the middle of his forehead, and he died real dead, dead.
Just a little dead.
Yeah, just super dead. So it was May the 17th of 1859 when that happened. So it was 4 days before he was supposed to get married to this girl that he had been waiting 4 years to marry. So bad choices, right?
Yeah, pretty bad.
So after the duel kind of ended up real bloody on the one side, Stith and his second and everybody that was with him got away, didn't get arrested, all that shit. They fled the scene pretty immediately, and everybody that was with Henry Vick got his body. First they took it to New Orleans and then back to Vicksburg to get buried. So they took the news to Helen. By this time, Annandale, the house, had been built. So they go to Annandale where Helen was living, and she was getting ready to have the wedding. So she had been decorating the chapel that they were supposed to get married in. They were, doing the the decorations for the ballroom there at Annandale where the reception was going to be. They were just in the middle of getting ready for a big society type wedding. And instead of saying, hey, he's back, look at this swanky suit that he showed up in, instead it was like, hey, he got into a barroom brawl and now he's fucking dead.
Yeah.
So she was obviously upset. And she asked his body to be brought to her, and she asked to have his body buried in that family plot at the chapel there. So he is buried there at that chapel, and his gravestone says Henry Grayvick interred.
Interred is spelled differently.
That's why I'm not sure, because I'm bad at spelling.
Interred is spelled with an I at the beginning.
Nope, so it's an E. Entered into rest May 17th.
2 R's in the middle.
1859.
Right.
So yeah, entered. Anyway, sorry. I am legitimately very bad at spelling. But
You're
anyway.
doing great.
So Helen obviously got super duper fucking sad, because who wouldn't? She absolutely adored this man and was like preparing to be a wife. They were madly in love. She was super excited, and he goes off and does this dumbass fucking thing and gets himself killed. So she is sitting on this bench next to his grave and weeping, and talks to him and weeps some more and runs around the, cemetery just weeping and wailing and being upset, puts in full mourning garb, just super not okay. And eventually her mom was like, if we don't remove her from this situation somehow, she's gonna die here too. So she decides that to try to lift her daughter's spirits and get her mind off the fact that her groom is dead, she decided to take her on a year-long vacation to Scotland to meet her father's family.
Well, that's
so
nice.
They go to Scotland and they stay there for a little over a year, and then when they come back, Helen had gotten over it enough to where she wasn't weeping and wailing in the cemetery anymore, but she was like, look, I don't give a fuck about anything else or anybody else. I'm not doing this anymore. Sorry, bitches. I liked him. This sucks. So she didn't really take any suitors for a while, but she was about to be 30 years old, and she was like, fuck, I guess I gotta talk to someone. I want to do something with the rest of my life. So she ended up marrying a man named George Harris, who was a local minister. And when he proposed to her, she was like, look, I'm going to be a good damn wife. I'm good at cooking and cleaning and all the wifely things, but I still love my first fiance, and look, I'll be a good wife to you, but I'm never going to love you as much as I loved him. Sorry. And he was like, that's fine. I just need you to be a wife. Okay. And she was like, fine. Shaked hands, that kind of thing. But her instructions, on her, in the event of her death, she wanted to be buried next to her first love. She wanted to be buried in that chapel next to Henry Vick.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. But when she died in 1916, she was buried next to her husband, George Harris.
Oh,
and
that's not sweet.
The report is that she was super pissed about that, ghostly speaking. And instead of, haunting the cemetery where she's actually buried at, her ghost is seen mourning at Henry Vick's grave at the Chapel of the Cross there in Mississippi.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. And so it's reported a lot as sometimes it's sort of a see-through kind of ghost, very transparent and that kind of thing. But sometimes people report seeing a woman in period mourning garb, and they think that she's a reenactor of some sort, or some kind of costumed person, but she looks super upset, and people come up to her to try to say, hey, are you okay? And she fucking disappears because ghosts. So she kind of haunts that particular chapel because she wanted to be buried there and she couldn't be, and so she's kind of still grieving that loss. So yeah, Helen Johnstone is the bride of Annandale, and she haunts that nearby chapel.
That's a real sweet story, with the exception of the
stupid dual murder death.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, is it murder though?
I mean, I would say yes, but
you know.
Probably not at the time.
Right. It was, with the exception of the duel. That's so sweet. She wanted to be buried there.
Yeah.
She went and married some other bloke, and he just did not cut it, Leah.
Look, he probably was not a tall, dark, handsome stranger.
Right.
So
You know why? Because she didn't eat her peas and greens.
something like that.
That's why. That's why you always eat your peas and greens.
So your idiot fiance doesn't go off and duel some asshole that he pissed off a year ago?
Well, that's part of it. And also, if you just want a tall, dark, and handsome man, no matter who you are, if you just want that to happen for you, eat your peas and greens.
All right. I'll be sure to load up this year.
Yeah. Fucking me too. I'm miserable.
I'm sorry.
I'm not, Leah.
Mitch
You're
is
all the
taking
tall, dark, and
applications for
handsome.
tall, dark, and handsome men.
You're
so.
all the tall, dark, and handsome I need.
Thanks. I'm short, very pale, and unattractive, so I'm glad you,
I will reiterate, you are all the tall, dark, and handsome I need.
Thank you. Are you ready for the very second?
You mean the second story?
Yes. That is what I am speaking of. The very second story.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, I'm very ready for it, my love.
All right. Well, this time we're going to be going to Kentucky. And we have a bit of a spelunking ghost on our hands. And it's going to be kind of fun.
That sounds fun.
Yes. All right. So we're going to be talking about the ghost of a man named William Floyd Collins. So he was born in Logan County, Kentucky, in a town called Auburn. And he was the third child of a man named Leonidas Collins, which love the name, and his wife Martha Jane Burnett. So Collins had 5 brothers, and their names were James. So fine. Also Floyd. This guy's name is William Floyd, and he goes by Floyd. And the brother also goes by the name Floyd because Floyd is his name. So there are 2 sons named Floyd in this household.
Good God, y'all.
Yeah.
This is George Foreman all over again.
Yeah. So we got William Floyd, James, regular Floyd, Andy Lee, Marshall Everett, and Homer Larkin.
Homer Larkin?
Homer Larkin. It's great names. I'm sorry. I love this. And then he had 2 sisters, Anna and Nellie. So I just am really blown away by people that name their children like either the same or so similarly they could be the same name. Like, it bothers me. Like, I work with the general public, and occasionally I'll get weird names, and I'm just be like, I've had clients that you pronounce the kids' names the same, but they're spelled different. Blows my mind.
I don't like that at all.
I hate it. I hate it so much. But I guess if you're like getting a kid to go do something, at least they're going to have to respond, because it's not like it's one or the other, you know. Anyway.
That's upsetting.
So, Floyd, the one we're talking about, not his brother.
Go ahead.
Floyd grew up in the area around Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. So that's going to be like the southwest portion of the state of Kentucky.
Yeah.
So around Mammoth Cave, his family was pretty poor, but they had a farm on the Flint Ridge, which is pretty close to the Mammoth Cave area. And he grew up on that farm, and that farm had lots of little caverns and caves and little holes and crevices that led into different cave systems, because that part of the country is pretty rife with lots of underground openings and stuff like that, just all over the place. So he grew up as a little kid just exploring a bunch of that shit. But he didn't really start thinking of that as something he wanted to pursue until there was a man named Edmund Turner, and he ended up being like a boarder with the Collins family. So a lot of people during that time could take in people to live with them for extra money, you know. So this is a dude that did that. His name was Edmund Turner, and he was a professional caver. So in 1912, he moved in with a family, and he lived with the Collins family while he was studying the geology of the area, was looking for new caves, and because Floyd took a real interest in, what he was doing and the geology behind everything, that he just sort of taught him as he went along. And he sort of told him about all the different cave formations, how they were made, what the different materials in the caves were, that kind of stuff. And so he began developing this really intense interest for the cave systems themselves, and he even started going down into the different caves and mining onyx. A lot of the caves in that area do have onyx that occur naturally down there, so they would bring it up and sell it for extra cash. So he had been doing that for a while, but in it was either 1916, late in December, or early 1917, he discovered a new little cave. So he went into this little sort of crevice. They call it a breathing crevice. I think it means that he could feel that there was air coming out from the system below. It was sort of a flowing air as opposed to just like a stagnant something or another, I don't really know. Like, I passed geology, but I wasn't paying that much attention. But yeah,
it was drafty.
It was drafty down there.
Yeah.
So he uncovered this sort of hole situation that led deeper down into this area. So he decided that this was a really promising opening that he thought would lead to something bigger just because of the way it breathed. He assumed that there was a bigger cavern, a chamber down there that you could get down into. So he was like, okay, I'm going to develop this little hole until we can get people down there. So he dug for about 2 weeks, and he ended up going and emerging into this giant cavern. And the interior of this cavern was completely encrusted with white gypsum flowers is what they call them, but it's the mineral gypsum forms kind of these starburst pattern crystals in the right conditions, and this entire cavern was absolutely covered in them. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was something that could draw in tourists, and tourists is what he was in fact after, because this entire situation in Kentucky at the time was called the Kentucky Cave Wars, because mammoth caves had been recently discovered and opened, to the public. And there were other caves that had opened commercially for tours and tourists and stuff like that. And people realized that they could make money off that tourism trade instead of having to do subsistence farming. And, tourists are a lot easier to get money out of. So everybody's trying to find the next new big thing that people want to come look at.
Yeah. And caves were a big, big thing.
Yeah.
Because... well, okay, just for example, I'm 33 years old, and I found out like 2 years ago that America is basically just one giant cave system.
Yeah.
I had no idea. But there are maps of them, and you can see that the entirety of the continental U.S. is just nothing but caves underneath the ground. It's so freaky. I don't like knowing that.
But yeah, so there was a huge cave system in the area, and like I said, the Mammoth Cave specifically had become popular. So they were all looking for something interesting, something unique, something different that could draw these tourists in from, the more populated areas into these rural areas so they can spend fucking money, and so he sees all of these gorgeous gypsum crystals and is like, oh, fuck yeah, we're going to make money off this bitch. And so he decided, he was so excited when he entered into that, cavern when he found it. It was pretty late at night, and he was like, I don't give a fuck if anybody's sleeping. He ran back to his house, got all of his entire family up, didn't even let him change into like clothes that weren't their pajamas, said, guys, come on out, you've got to see this.
Come look at my cave.
Yeah. And so he took them all down that night with lanterns and stuff like that, and they were absolutely stunned, and they spent, a long time down there just because it was so gorgeous. They didn't come up until the sun came up. It's
about to be 2021. If you wake me up because there's a cave, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'll look at it in the morning, Leah. Fucking shit, like I've got stuff to do.
It's been there for thousands of years. It can wait another couple hours, asshole.
Yeah, like obviously I'm not going to get back to sleep, but no, I'm not going in the damn cave right now. It's 3 a.m. Fuck off.
So Mr. Floyd said, what I'm going to do is call this cave Wonder Cave. But he had a next door neighbor named William Travis Blair, and the next door neighbor said, okay, look, Wonder Cave is cute and all, but it doesn't have the punch that you're looking for. How about you call it Crystal Cave, since it's a cave full of crystals? And he said, oh shit, that is what we should call it.
No, but listen, I wonder where all those crystals came from.
The Crystal Cave. Hey. So
Listen,
yeah,
though, we could sell shirts. Wonder where I got this shirt? At the wonderful Crystal Cave.
yeah.
'Cause
So
I
calm
don't
down.
have anything. I've had too much banana pudding.
clearly, so anyway, the Leonidas, Floyd's daddy, says, "All right, this looks like something we could develop and make money off of, so let's do it." So him and his brothers help to enlarge the entrance. They smooth the floors out. They make a trail that is passable by tourists. And it takes about a year's worth of pretty consistent hard work. But, it worked out. It was great. It was easy to get into and out of. And all this time while they were doing that work, Floyd was spelunking still. He was exploring new passages and chambers, and he was making new discoveries that they could add to their little tour section. And, he was trying to find things and develop this cave to where it would be one of the big, tourist attractions in the area. So in 1918, they opened the cave. They hired a manager. They, formally entered into the cave wars. They were going to be cave people,
The cave wars.
Yeah.
That's
so
exciting.
the family started advertising with signs and going to touristy places and saying, hey, have you checked out our cave yet? That kind of stuff. But unfortunately, their particular cave and farm area was pretty far from where the more touristy areas were, and it was kind of hard to get to because it was just a dirt road, and it was kind of not in the best condition kind of dirt road. So it was very difficult to get people to get all the way back there. Now their cave was gorgeous, and it was a great thing once you got there, but it was difficult to get people to actually go by there to get it, because the tourists that actually showed up just say that this place is absolutely stunning and amazing, and just absolutely, because Floyd sometimes would be the one that would show people through, and he would tell them all of the stories and adventures, and he was a great country storyteller, and it was just like a great experience for the people that actually made it out there. But unfortunately, most people just didn't make it out there because there are so many caves and they were so much closer. And like, once you've seen a cave, you've seen a cave, right?
If there's nothing special about your cave, if like a rock wall doesn't open and reveal like a giant pair of rock titties, I'm fine.
But I mean, like
I've seen the other caves.
I mean, Crystal Cave, to be fair, really does have some spectacular like crystals in it, which is cool. But like, there once again are so many fucking caves that it's really difficult for them to bring these people to where the cave is. So they're not making much money, and it's kind of a should we keep going kind of situation. But Floyd really wants to continue to make this happen for his family. He wants to turn this around. He wants to make this the destination. So he keeps looking. He keeps trying to develop other areas and stuff like that. So it was profitable occasionally, but for the most part, the Floyd family, Floyd's family, they're the Collinses, excuse me. The Collins had still had to farm. They had to do all the other stuff that they normally did to stay in business. And in fact, in the early 20s, Floyd even bought and ran a still before Prohibition while it was legal.
Oh, that's nice.
And then after Prohibition came in, it said that he probably continued to keep that still going get his family through the economic problems that plagued the 20s. So, there's a little whiskey connection to this story as well. But, the dad really wanted to sell the cave, get out of the cave-in business. He just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. It was a lot of work. It wasn't making him a lot of money. But Floyd was like, look, Daddy, we can make this happen. Crystal Cave is amazing. We're going to find a passage that connects with surrounding caves, get closer to the tourists, maybe even connect to Mammoth Cave. Like, he was really trying to find something, a way to make this commercially viable for their family, to make it the place. You know, he was still convinced that by continuing to spelunk and find things, he was going to be able to make it right for his family. So he researched and he mapped all of these caves, and he talked with all of the old folks around there, all the old cavers, because lots of people around there, you know, grew up going into all the little holes and crevices just because it's something to do.
Yeah.
So he looked over all the charts and the maps, and he decided that his best spot to find an opening that might connect to his was in Barron County, Kentucky, which was just over the line, real close to the land that they had. And it's actually connected to the Mammoth Cave Ridge as well. So it was very possible that anything that they found there would connect to either Mammoth Cave, Crystal Cave, or possibly both, which is what I believe he was hoping for.
What about Wonder Cave?
I think Wonder Cave and Crystal Cave are the same thing. So he finds this section of land, and there are 3 farmers that all reside on different pieces of this land. So there's a man named Edward Estes, a man named Jesse Lee, and a man named Beasley Doyle. So all 3 of them are in this area, and he kind of needs permission from all of them to kind of look around these areas looking for the caves. And the Estes guy was a caver himself. He went down to the caves to get onyx, which he sold to tourists, like a lot of people in the area did.
Nice.
And so he offered to basically look for these caves and develop them. And if he found a cave and it was commercially viable, they could split, you know, the income from it. So Estes originally was like, I don't know, but the other people were like, if we don't have to do this shit and he'll do most of the work, this is just some extra cash for us if it happens. So eventually they all agreed that he could start developing the land, or looking for a place to develop. So eventually he goes to the Doyle farm and he finds this hole. And the hole he calls Sand Cave. But it really wasn't a cave. It was just sort of like a crack in the rock that kind of twisted down. And
That's a cave.
Yeah.
That's the definition of a cave.
It's not really that much of a cave.
Yeah.
It was like a crevice. And it had actually opened up because there was a larger cavern beneath that, centuries beforehand had collapsed, and the passageway broke, and it, caused that to be up on the surface. So this is already geologically kind of unstable land that he's digging in, which is foreshadowing as fuck. So
don't ruin it.
He chose to go dig down this little sandstone hole that he called Sand Cave, and it was covered with sandstone debris, but he really thought that there would be solid limestone underneath it, which is really what you're hoping for, because that is solid and is most likely not going to cave in on you. But
Nice.
Sandstone is crumbly and not a good idea to be digging around in. So it was a bit of a toss-up, but he thought that it was very possible that it would lead to either Mammoth Cave or back to his own Crystal Cave. So he went down and he starts developing this tunnel, digging out an entrance, and he starts getting down into this crumbling passageway. And he would come back to his house, his parents' house, on the weekends, and talking to his daddy. And his daddy was like, look, can you hurry up on this shit? We're losing money here. I would like to sell this shit. But Mr. Floyd, was like, I just want to keep digging, Daddy. It's my dream,
Daddy, let me dig.
Let me dig, Daddy.
Leah, that sounds so awful.
Sorry.
I don't know. Something about that just sounds so, let me dig, Daddy.
But Leonidas Collins was like, Floyd, you do know that sandstone, that's dangerous as shit. You're going to get hurt. Please stop doing it. And Floyd was like, no, Daddy, I just need to dig.
No, Daddy, you got to let this boy dig.
And his mama was like, look, Floyd, I brought you into this world, and that rock is going to take you out of it if you don't fucking be careful.
Daddy, let me dig.
Because she was like, I've seen a vision from God, and God says you're going to die in that fucking cave if you don't stop digging in that sandstone. But Floyd obviously didn't listen to her or God or the angels that she saw. So
Floyd just had to dig.
It was about 3 weeks into his work at the sand cave site. And Floyd eventually moved to stay with the next family because I guess the Doyle farm was like tired of his bullshit. I don't know. But he went to go eat and live at the Estes family. But since the hole was closer to the Doyle farm site, he left like all of his tools and stuff there and his clothes for work and all that. So he was making pretty rapid progress in that opening because he was using a lot of dynamite, which also was probably not a great idea. And he pulled out some stalactites out of the cave to show the farmers, all the cool shit that they were going to soon be able to go down and see because it was so awesome down there. But unfortunately, on January the 30th of 1925, Floyd went down and he didn't come back up.
Oh, no. What happened, Leah?
So I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
So when he didn't come back up and didn't show up to dinner, the Doyle and Estes families are like, well, shit, this is a problem. He should have come back up by now. You seen him? No, we ain't seen him. No. You seen him? No, we ain't got him either. So they decide that they need to get together and go down to that sand hole and see if he's okay. Turns out he wasn't. And he had gone down this, it's a really narrow, winding kind of passage that he had been digging down into this to explore. Yeah. And unfortunately, a rock fell on his leg. It had sort of shattered out of the stone and fell on his foot and pinned his foot, and he had become wedged against this wall, and he wasn't able to get himself out. So he was lying on his right side, and his right leg was kind of locked at this weird angle. His left arm was able to move, but it was so cold and wet down there because it's fucking January that his arm was numb and hypothermia was quickly setting in.
That is so awful.
Oh, yeah. So during the night, he had fallen asleep with a gas lantern, next to him like he always carried, but the lantern went out when he woke up, and he was just waiting to either die or have someone come and find him,
Yeah.
So the people come and find him, and they're like, well, shit, and they try to get him out, but he has a fucking boulder on his foot, and he can't, move. And it's really difficult to get down to him because it's such a long, narrow, windy path. So the friends and family arrive on that Saturday. So it was Thursday when he got down there. They've brought him a couple of things there. Anyway, people show up on Saturday and they start working to get him out of this fucking hole. They managed to get his upper body loose, and they brought kind of like a gasoline lantern that heated him up a little bit. They had some blankets, a little bit of food. But for the most part, it was so narrow down there that it was very difficult to get him anything substantial down there. They tried to widen that real narrow opening. They removed lots of rocks, but it didn't help very much. So Floyd had that brother named Homer, and he climbed down into the passage, and he spent the night with his brother talking to him and trying to keep him company and that kind of thing. Yeah. Covered him up with blankets and just tried to reassure him that they were doing everything they could to get him out. But Leonidas Collins, the daddy, offered a $500 reward to anyone that could get his son out of that fucking hole, which was a lot of money at that point in time. And, it drew lots of people. And it ended up like the story got out in the local paper. Oh, no. And then it became a media sensation because flaps of any sort at this point apparently become nationwide news.
Especially cave flaps.
Cave flaps.
That's a porno you don't want to see.
I do not want to see that. But anyway, a crowd starts gathering around the outside of this cave that the man stuck in. Yeah. And by Monday morning, like I said, newspapers across the entire country had begun reporting on this. Radio stations had picked it up. Everybody's talking about this shit.
Headline, don't let your sons dig.
So tons of people start
I thought it was funny.
Yes.
Just move on, Leah. You're right.
Tons of people start hanging out around the entrance to this cave. The Louisville Fire Department shows up, and they tried, but it didn't work very well. And there's some other cavers and concerned locals and some just looky-loos that were interested to see if the dude got out of the hole or not. You know, just what else are we going to do? Sit and wait and see if he comes out of the hole. But a lot of people that tried to go down and bring him supplies or anything else like that freaked out by the fact that the tunnel was so narrow and it was hard to navigate. So a lot of the times they didn't even make it that far. There was actually one reporter from the Louisville Courier Journal. That's very hard to say.
Yeah.
His name was William Burke Skeets, in quotations Miller.
Oh, good God.
I don't know. But he actually won a Pulitzer Prize for covering this story. And according to the articles that I read, his nickname Skeets, his nickname came from being very tiny, and I don't know how that goes together. Maybe in like 20s slang, Skeets means real small guy.
Leah, until about 2003, Skeet didn't mean what it means now. It's just a sound, basically.
I guess.
I think it meant little person, like apparently this was.
Okay, well.
And now it means something different.
Indeed.
Motherfucker.
So,
goddamn.
Yeah, he was a super tiny newspaper man, and he was so little that he could get down that path pretty easy, and he wasn't freaked out about it. So he carried his little.
Go ahead.
I don't know what you report with. Maybe a notebook?
A note? Yeah, at the time, a notebook.
I didn't know a record. I don't know. Anyway, so he shimmied his way, little Skeets, Skeets Miller. Old Skeets Miller slid down that little passageway because he was a tiny little man and he could. And he goes down there and he interviews Floyd about how he's feeling, what it's like, his experience in the cave, all of that stuff. And he ended up making 8 trips down into the cave to interview him. And like he had... you know, the paper, and he, like I said, won a Pulitzer Prize from covering that story. Super ridiculous. So it went from being like a weekend thing to weeks. This man was under there with all of this hullabaloo outside for weeks. So there had been some attempts to actually hoist him out of the cave, like pulling on him. And Floyd was like, look, if it rips my foot off, it rips my foot off. Just like fucking... get me out of here, goddammit. And they tried, and that did not work. They attempted to do all sorts of stuff, but like I said, even more and more people were coming on a daily basis because everybody was so involved and interested in this stupid story. Which it's not stupid to that guy, but the fact that one guy stuck in a hole brought that many people is kind of bizarre to me. But anyway, so it began attracting dozens of miners from all over the country. The National Guard showed up. The Red Cross showed up. A bunch of Army Corps engineer kind of folks show up. And the weather was real bad because it's Kentucky in January into February. And, you know, it happens. So the cave walls start crumbling even worse than they already had. And it was just they were unable to get him moved at all. Like I said, they were keeping him fed and watered, and I'm assuming he is defecating on himself this whole time. So it's even getting worse. I'm sorry, that's not funny, but I mean, it's gotta be gross down there. So like I said, he's spent weeks pinned in this one place and etc. So it's a rough situation, but shot in the dark.
Ooh, took long enough.
The scene drew in a ton of onlookers. How many people are estimated to have visited the site during Floyd's entrapment? Was it A, 200 people, B, 2,000 people, or C, 20,000 people?
I just feel like the amount of people that it did draw probably caused it. You know, like probably contributed to everything not holding together the way that it should, because all these people are like, look at this motherfucker stuck in there shitting on himself, as Leah so elegantly put it. I'm going to say that it was 2,000 people.
You're incorrect. It was 20,000 onlookers.
Jesus. So, yeah, that definitely calls it.
Yeah. So, about...
Do you want another shot?
Did you pour it already?
Yeah, but I'll drink it if you want it.
I'll drink it.
Okay. Come get it, ho. Shit. Oh, God. This is the worst. But it's about to be the best. You're not waiting again. You just went. Leah, we do things together.
I am no gentleman.
Now that we can agree on. You are all the tall, dark, and handsome I need. And that means that you are no gentleman.
You okay?
Man, yeah, that's wonderful.
Excellent. All right, so yeah, about 20,000 people showed up to this area. And some of them were like just hoping to see that they were hoping to be there when he gets out. You know, like, oh, I was there. I saw his crushed leg. I don't know.
I seen it.
And they were looking to just sort of see, you know. Mm-hmm. Some people wanted to help, and some people were just there to like enjoy the atmosphere. And then some people were there to sell food and drinks and souvenirs to the people that showed up wanting to look at this guy. So it became kind of like a carnival situation out there in the middle of February, in the middle of this farmland.
They had like funnel cakes and stuff.
Yeah, like people were selling sandwiches and hot dogs and drinks and shit to the people just sitting there watching people trying to rescue this poor man that's stuck in the ground.
Well, if you about to see a crushed leg, Leah, you gonna need a hot dog.
I guess.
Preferably a corn dog if we're talking carnival food.
I do love a corn dog.
Yes,
anyway,
you do.
So, like I said, and then there are news reporters from all over the place that are camped out waiting to have news send back to their news agencies and papers and stuff like that. So, like I said, 20,000 fucking people in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky in February. It's weird. So, eventually, a group of men was able to widen the cave entrance enough that they were able to pry loose the rock that was trapping his leg. And it worked. But unfortunately, as soon as the rock came free, it immediately slipped back into place and it trapped his leg even worse than it was before.
Good God.
So they made the situation worse. And they sort of rocked it back and forth, and they tried to like fix the fuck up, and it didn't work, and it made it worse. So then on top of that, there was a series of cave-ins that crashed down onto him, and it cut him off from being able to get to the surface. Like, people couldn't bring him shit anymore. So that was a problem, and his rescuers end up waiting after the cave-in happened. They holler down to him and they realize that he's still alive. So they're like, oh, hell, okay, we got to keep trying. So from that point on, they didn't really have any contact with him except kind of hollering every so often. And they couldn't go from the front where they were going because they were worried that that entire shaft was going to collapse and trap even more people down there. So it was kind of hard to get people to continue to work on trying to free this man, even though he was still alive down there. But Homer Collins, his brother, was absolutely pissed off that no one would help try to save his brother, that he got in a fight with the police, and he was eventually banned from being on premises at all by the police. But anyway, no one wanted to go back into the initial hole, so they decided to cut another shaft. So they started a vertical shaft that was over where they thought that his body was. Mm-hmm. And they were hoping to intersect at the spot where he was trapped and pull him out that way. So they start digging on February the 16th. And they dig 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 and they finally reach him. But unfortunately, he had died 3 days earlier, probably on Friday the 13th from exposure and exhaustion. So they spent all that time and effort, and it didn't work out for them. So people all over the country were super upset that, he died. They had spent so long hearing about this, constant updates on the radio, and, people were really interested in this shit, and it was like 2 months of their lives, and they bring out a body instead of a man, and it really upset. It was like a national tragedy situation, and it brought a lot of attention to the Mammoth Cave area. And it also kind of caused a backlash in the tourism industry because people didn't think that the caves were safe anymore, which, yeah, maybe. But anyway, eventually...
Caves are never safe.
No. But eventually, it got so bad in that area that a lot of people no longer wanted to be in the cave industry, including Floyd's father, Leonidas Collins. So he was anxious to sell the Crystal Cave because he didn't want any part of it anymore. His son was dead because of caves, and he was just like, fuck it, I want to get out of this. So he sold that entire acreage in Crystal Cave to a local dentist named Harry Thomas, and he bought Crystal Cave from Leonidas Collins for $10,000. Now, Dr. Thomas had been the one to draw up the contracts, and I don't think that Leonidas really read the contracts very much. So Dr. Thomas already owned 2 other commercial caves. He was running the Hidden River Cave and the Mammoth Onyx Cave. And he wanted another cave to add to his situation. And he thought that the fact that Floyd was the one that discovered that Crystal Cave would be a real good, because it has name recognition because it had been national news. So he thought that that would be a good way to sort of, purchasing that one would bring more tourists in because of that name recognition. But part of the contract that he had written in was that he was now allowed legally to exhume Floyd Collins's body from where he had been buried and to relocate it into Crystal Cave, and he was authorized to, bury it in the cave so it could be a tourist attraction. So the Collins family, once they realized that they had accidentally signed over the deed, I guess, to their son's body, were very upset and were like, hey, we did not agree to this shit. He was like, sorry, bitches, it's in the contract. His next of kin, his father, signed it. Sorry, body's mine.
Good God.
Yeah. So, he decided to, exhume the body, and he put it in a glass-covered bronze coffin, and it was open for public viewing starting in June of 1927, and he placed it right in the middle of the tourist trail that led into the Crystal Cave's main crystal room, and so the visitors could pass by and look at his, and once again, glass-topped coffin, can just walk by and look at this poor guy's corpse, and it had a big granite tombstone, and they would stop at the cave or at the grave on the way in and tell the harrowing story of his, time in the cave and how he died, and he was the world's greatest cave explorer, all of the cavey, creepy bullshit, but with like a real live dead guy. Wait, that didn't make sense.
Real live dead guy. That's very true.
Yeah. So the Collins family was super pissed off, and they sued Dr. Thomas. But Dr. Thomas had money and lawyers and an actual contract on his hands that said that he could do it. And the courts were like, yeah, he can do it. Sorry. Got to keep that body where it's at. And so they kept displaying his body in Crystal Cave, and it really did bring a lot of fucking tourists because everybody was super interested to see that body in that cave. So it worked out for him. But another weird twist is that on March the 18th of 1929, someone stole Floyd's body from the glass coffin.
Oh no.
And left with it out of the cave. So they discovered that the body was missing the next morning, and they called the cops, and the cops from 3 different counties showed up to help search for this body. They dusted the casket for fingerprints. They brought in bloodhounds, and eventually the bloodhounds led them to the body that was about 800 yards away from the cave, where it had been wrapped in burlap sacks and hidden in bushes. But unfortunately, it was missing a leg.
What?
And they never found the fucking leg.
Well, I was going to say, wasn't the leg under the rock in the first place?
Well, I mean, it was missing. I think the leg came with the body. It was mangled. But anyway, the leg was missing, and it should have had a leg in the first place.
They took the mangled leg, is what we're saying.
Who knows? They never found the leg, and to this day, the leg was missing off the body. But anyway, they found the body, and they put it back in the coffin, minus a leg. And they kept on displaying it, and nobody ever really found out what the motive was for stealing it or who actually stole it. But a lot of people had suspicions that it was the doctor, the dentist, that he was the one that stole it just to sort of drum up more press to get more people in there. Yeah. Also, some people thought that it was the family that hired someone to steal it so they could, bury it at the family plot.
Right.
So there's a lot of debate over who, in fact, was the one that stole the body in the first place. But the fact that this poor man's been dug up, displayed in a tourist attraction, and then gets stole, and his leg comes up missing, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's weird.
But anyway, after his body was stolen, they decided we got to put a lock on this fucking coffin. So they did. And they also started covering up the top of the casket. And eventually it stopped being as cool of a thing to display bodies, and they would only uncover the casket every so often. I mean, they would always stop at the casket, but they wouldn't show the glass top part of it very often. But his body was still on display as late as 1952, so it took them a very long while to stop making his body a public spectacle, Yeah.
We've talked about a few of those where they're displaying bodies of people that aren't really famous, but they're famous because they're displayed bodies.
Yeah.
And that's something you do not see anymore.
Yeah. Which, I mean, and I'm perfectly fine if the person gives consent. So, some of the more recent displays, like body worlds and stuff like that, a lot of those bodies were taken from, Chinese, political prisoners.
Really?
And those people, like I said, I've always wanted to go to one of those body worlds exhibits, because they've got plastinated corpses basically, and they have basically made all the tissue into stabilized plastics, and it's flayed body parts. You can see the entire inner workings of actual cadavers. Cadaver World. There's a bunch of different touring displays, and I'm against that kind of thing because I want to see it because I think it's cool. But if the person, when they were alive, didn't give consent and want to have that done to their body, I don't think it's right. You know what I mean? But if it's something where it's something like the Motor Museum, where those people specifically said, hey, I want my body displayed in XYZ manner, if that is something that they want, fine, I'm totally down for it. And if when you're alive you say, hey, I want to be a kitschy tourist attraction, shit, yeah, I'll help you be a kitschy tourist attraction. That's awesome. But if there's not consent there from the person in life, I don't think anybody has the right to do that to someone in death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's,
I agree with you.
I just have really weird feelings about people displaying body parts in museums and stuff like that because, I mean, there was no consent given, so it's a weird whole thing that I have. But anyway, so they, like I said, displayed him for up until 1952. But eventually they were like, yeah, that's probably not a good look for us. So the Collins family was eventually able to get him taken out of that cave, and he's buried at the Baptist Church Cemetery on Flint Ridge Road, and all of that's now part of the Mammoth Caves National Park. So you can visit his grave. It is in the national park now. And you can, like I said, easily find it. Lots of people bring stuff to his grave, and people that are spelunkers like to visit his grave. It's just sort of a respect kind of thing. But
is there no danger of any more collapsing happening?
I think the problem of the collapse was specifically in the one section where he was at that was specifically sandstone instead of the limestone that a lot of the area is made out of.
Yeah.
So no, in that particular situation, the rest of the caves in the area are mostly limestone.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a particular geological structure that he shouldn't have been digging in that caused the problem in the first place.
Well, gotta let him dig, Daddy.
I guess. But anyway, they do say there are lots of reports of ghostly activity in and around those areas. A lot of people say that in the area near where the collapsed sand cave is, and it's generally park rangers, because mostly the people that cave in that area are park rangers of the Mammoth Cave National Park.
Yeah.
And they said that near that area they were doing like a water table study with the springs in the area, and they had gone out to an area near the sand cave, and one of them was sitting by the truck filling out some paperwork, and the other one had gone down to the actual spring to get the water samples that they were doing, and he heard a voice saying, help me, I'm trapped, Johnny, help me. And he was worried that someone was hurt, so he runs over to his partner's not hurt or anything. He's like, what? He's like, were you yelling? No. Anyway, it comes to find out the last person that Floyd saw, but the last person that was down in there talking to him was a man named Johnny Gerald. It was one of Floyd's friends, and he was one of the last people to talk to him before that cave collapsed and sealed him off. And they think that it might be that sort of haunting, the residual haunting of that moment in time where he was getting trapped permanently, A lot of other people say that in that cave system, they've felt people be pushed, or things like fall and fly around, and normal ghostly stuff. But the one main thing is that people will often hear someone crying for help, sort of a ghostly voice just crying out because he's stuck,
Ugh, uncomfortable.
And there are actually a lot of other Mammoth Cave ghosts that we will go into later, just because the Mammoth Caves are huge, and there's some really fun ghost stories
mammoth.
that are that are associated with some of those places. So we'll get into that later on in our show. But it's a really interesting story, and so many corpse capers here. Interesting. So
that's fun.
I think so. So that is, that's the story of the haunting of the Sand Cave in Kentucky.
That's absolutely terrifying. Like we've talked about water before.
Yeah.
Just getting trapped down there. That's fucking terrifying.
I agree. I don't like. Even as a kid, like, we live in an area where obviously there are quite a few commercial caves. DeSoto Caverns we went to occasionally, but the big one up here is in Tennessee in is it Chattanooga? Is that where it's at?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's in Chattanooga. Anyway, Ruby Falls.
Yeah, Ruby Falls is in Chattanooga.
So Ruby Falls is in Chattanooga, and it's this cave that you go down into, and then you go all the way back, and you walk, 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 you walk, you walk, you walk. Takes forever. But anyway, you get down to the back of it, and there's a waterfall in the back of the cave, and they light up the waterfall with all these gorgeous lights. And it turns out that most of that is, like, there was a natural spring back there and a natural waterfall, but most of the water that is there nowadays is pumped in artificially.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it on a few years ago on I believe a Reddit post. Somebody that used to work there, like it's all fake back in there.
So like all of the geological formations are real and stuff, but like the actual impressive thing that people go down there for is the waterfall, and most of it's fucking fake. But anyway, unless there's been like a rainstorm or a flood recently, in which case it picks up on its own. But to maintain that wow spectacle of Ruby Falls, it's mostly fake pumped in water. But anyway, it's a really fun place to go. It's beautiful, but the elevator ride down to it is fucking terrifying. You can see like the rock wall as you go down. I hated it as a child. And I remember when I was a kid, we went up there one year. We were doing the aquarium and Rock City and all of that stuff, and we ended up in there in the middle of a tornado, and the cave started. Because it was kind of unexpected bad weather. They thought it was going to be just light rain, but it wasn't. And we got stuck down there in the middle of a tornado and like a flash flood.
Jesus.
And the cave started flooding, and they made us go up into the lobby, so we didn't get to do the tour or anything like that. And we had to, I passed a tornado in the gift shop of Ruby Falls. So,
what do you mean? Like you walked by it?
No.
Like you saw it happening outside the gift shop?
That's what I'm saying. Everybody was sheltered in place. Like they had us all sheltered in place. The lights went out and we were all just sitting there going, well, shit, in the middle of the gift shop in Ruby Falls. I remember that. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. It was terrifying. But so that's my caving experience. So I do not recommend caves. I don't like them. I might go to Mammoth Caves. I think that would be really fun, but I would really have to hype myself up to go down. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Caves. Caves terrify me, especially underwater caves. Like we've talked about before. It's all just, no, I'm going to get stuck if I go down there. I know it. So I'm just not going. Yeah.
I would visit a commercial cave and I would probably be okay with it. And okay. I would be a little bit concerned, but like I've done it before and I can get through it, and like it's fun to see the geological stuff. If I'm underwater, there's no way in fucking hell I'm doing anything like that. Absolutely not. We don't. If it's not a pool, Leah don't swim in it. You know, like I'm very hesitant to even get in a lake.
Leah don't swim. I'm in trouble deep.
But anyway, so that was my cave story. That's all I got.
That's your cave story?
Well, it's a story that I researched and have told you about caves. It's not my personal story.
That's absolutely not your cave story.
No, it's Floyd Collins's and his other brother Floyd and his other brother Homer.
Yeah. Floyd, and Floyd.
And correct. Leonidas, the daddy.
Leonidas, his dad. It's like the Jetsons. His boy Floyd.
Meet Leonidas.
His other boy Floyd. Oh, Leah. Well, this has gone on way too long.
Excellent.
Do you want to give us a toast?
Yeah, everybody hoist your banana pudding high into the sky.
Like an actual bowl of banana pudding? Yeah, an actual bowl
of banana pudding. Go
Please.
For it. Everybody hoist it and let's toast. If there's gonna be a big wedding soon, don't agree to a duel. You'll widow your poor bride-to-be and end up... No, let me try that again.
Yeah, do it again.
Let me try this. I'm a little tired. I'm sorry, y'all. Let's try this. Okay, we got this.
I believe in you.
If there's gonna be a big wedding soon, don't agree to a duel. You'll widow your poor bride-to-be and look like an absolute tool.
Oh.
Kentucky caves are scary, dark, and deep. Take a wrong turn and find eternal sleep.
Oh, I thought you were going to rhyme the word feet. Like, look out, you're going to lose your feet.
Damn it, that would have been so much better. But feet and deep don't rhyme.
I mean,
it's a near rhyme, but not quite.
Come on. Watch out now. There goes your feet.
That would have been so much better. Mm-hmm. Oh, well. C'est la vie.
C'est la feet.
Stop.
I got him. I'm all over it this week, Leah. All right, well, I guess we're done.
Excellent.
Yeah. I had a great time. Did you have fun, Leah?
I did have fun. I thought this was a fun episode.
I enjoyed it a lot. When I just sit here quiet, that means that I'm listening and I'm like enthralled in the stories and not making jokes. So, I enjoyed myself a lot. I am also just terrified of caves, so I was kind of in my own head going, oh, I hope this doesn't happen to me ever. Like if our house just collapses and then I'm in a cave. Not okay with it.
Yeah, I'm also terrified of sinkholes, turns out. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Just now. Figured that out just now.
No. That has always been a fear. Ever since I learned that sinkholes were a thing when like a big one opened up in Florida, I was like, oh, wait, the earth can do that? Oh,
Yeah.
great. Now that's a personal fear of mine.
The earth can just disappear into a giant piece of the American cave system.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm good. I don't like it.
You know those there are a lot of theories about when people just disappear and they're like, well, they had these sinister people in their lives. No, they probably just fell into a cave. That's probably what happens to a lot of people. There are a lot of theories about that they just disappear into a cave somewhere.
It's an interesting thought as to the whole missing 411 stuff. Do you know about that stuff?
No, I don't.
Well, we can talk about that later. But
Okay.
yeah, it's very possible that it's just was it Bigfoot? No, it's a fucking sinkhole, asshole.
There's just you just fall through the earth and now you're in a cave.
Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yep. That's what happens, Leah. That's America for you. It's the American dream. It's the American dream.
Well, now I need some Xanax. Would you like to close us out?
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out Leah's crafting YouTube channel, Craftpocalypse. Send us an email, southernspiritspodcast@gmail.com. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/southernspiritspodcast. Send us postcards or any other fun physical items to P.O. Box 1743 in Hartselle, Alabama, 35640. Leah, I feel like I missed something this week. What
No,
is it?
that's everything.
That's everything. Okay. Well, we will see y'all next time.
Bye, y'all.